Well, the hour being 3 o'clock, we'll call this agenda and priorities meeting to order for the town of Innisfail this 16th day of November 2020. Welcome, everyone. See, we have a delegation here today. But anyways, I'll start off with the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Would someone like to move we adopt?
I so move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And we have a staff introduction, two new FCSS staff. Karen.
Yes, thank you. Test. Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm just introducing today a couple of staff members. So here is Sue Sandgate. Sue is doing her practicum placement with us until the end of November. And then Sandy Wacker is our new community supports and age-friendly facilitator. So she joined us last week, and Sue started with us on November 2nd.
Well, welcome. Your practicum, Sue, is that to do with? Community support services. Okay, I see.
Maybe Karen, just have them talk about their background a little bit and just where they came from. Just you know.
So, do you want me to say it?
Okay, so I had taken a year program with Community Support Services and Addiction Specialty. I work for Alberta Health Services right now. My practicum ends the end of November, and I have to go back to work full-time with Alberta Health Services.
Hi.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi. So I came here I was working in Red Deer as a facilitator for employability skills for youth. My background is in social work, and I did some work with adults with disabilities for about 8 years, and then high-risk youth for about 10 years. And then I took a break and had some children, and then came back and did the employability skills. And now I came back to my hometown and thought it would be lovely to come and see what I can contribute here.
Welcome. Okay. I don't know if they're expecting you to stay for the whole meeting, but all right, next on the agenda, we have a delegation with the Innisfail Kinsman Club. Are you a spokesperson, or are you all coming up? You turn the mic on there, Kim, too, please.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I believe most of you know me. I'm Tim Ainscough. I'm also the president of the Innisfail Kinsman Club this year. And I have with me Rob Getty, who's chair of our committee on disc golf. Thank you for allowing us to come here today. We wanted to have a brief discussion and let you know of an idea that we've run around our club and we'd like to proceed with for the community. And with that, we'd like to get council's at least approval in principle so that we can move forward and bring forward a more detailed. So the area we're looking at is up in Centennial Park. And we'd like to install ultimately an 18-hole disc golf. Of course, we'd start with 9 and build that first 9. And once they're completed, then we look to do another 9. And we've gone for a walk with members of the staff here and looked at the area. We'd like to start, I don't know, does this have a pointer on it? Or? No. Well, if everyone's familiar with the area, the dog park is up in that clearing. We'd like to go around the dog park and then up towards the cemetery, in around that area, and then come back around the dog park. So people would come to Centennial Park, they'd be able to park there, do their disc golf, stay and enjoy some of the other facilities, and hopefully it would be a draw to the community. Can you click on the first link? For those of you that don't know much about disc golf, and up until a month ago, I didn't know much about disc golf, there's a quick, we'll just watch a minute or two of this little video, and it'll sort of show you disc golf, and it'll show you some of the features we'd like to install up there. If you can just click on the end of the ad there. But if you can see by the video, those are what they call the basket, the catchers, and then the tee boxes are really just a little grassed area with a concrete step. They play in feet instead of yards, so it would be a 400-yard golf hole, it would be a 400-foot hole, but they meander them through trees, around obstacles and different things, and really the only infrastructure that we would have to put in is the basket and the tee box. And I can leave this video with Vanessa and she can share it, and if you want to watch it, it's about a 5-minute video and really explains it, but there's not a lot of infrastructure that has to be put in, so the impacts will be minimal, but it's a growing sport that more and more people are interested in participating in, and that's good for now. The second link, if we can go back one. The second, we won't bother playing it if we don't got sound, but as I wasn't aware either, they have a pro tour for disc golf. So if you're interested, you could watch a little bit of that.
And any questions, I have my son right behind me, who's your foremost disc golf player, probably top 10 in this town anyways. So he's got, like, compared to regular golf with the ball, this is, the pack he has his cutter, his mid-range, probably about 10 of them in there. He's got a portable basket. And he plays it all over Alberta and BC. And it's, yeah, there's an association, professional disc golf association. There's disc golf players that are making over $1 million a year winning tournaments. So it's free. And it fits on your landfill and doesn't hurt anything. So it's a win-win.
So up there, we've done some initial concept sketches of where we could fit the front nine, and the big black area there is the dog park. So what we're thinking we're going to do is we're going to raise corporate sponsorship by selling off each hole. The sponsor would get their name on the tee box sign as well as signage that we put down in the parking lot. To date, we have commitment for about 5 hole sponsors already, and that's where we think we should be able to easily raise that and get that 9 hole sponsor, do the first 9, and if there's more interest, we'd raise into a back 18. We're looking at sponsoring, a whole sponsorship would be about $2,000, which would raise us about $18,000 in revenue for the first 9 holes. Our cost for tee box and signage is estimated about $1,000, and the basket's another $800, and some signage for the main, we'd have it sort of at the parking lot in Centennial, and we'd list all the sponsors. We're going to work on getting in-kind donations for the installation, so we figure we can balance out our project, what we raise in revenue at $2,000 a hole. The intent would be that there'd be a nice sign, it'll say hole sponsored by Boss Contracting, Innisfail Kinsman. It would have a picture, like on the golf course, have a picture of the hole where you start, where you end, and then we'd go from there. So We think it'll work. We think we can raise the money. What we'd like to do is, get a little input from council. If council agrees this is at least a good idea for us to go forward with, then we'll go forward and we'll get into some detailed design and bring it back to council for final approval. And with that, I open it to questions.
I think so. Like, the terrain over there is fantastic with the hills and the elevation changes, and that's what disc golf players love. So you could make a really difficult course for the more advanced one, but similar to regular golf, there's also forward tees, where someone just starting, if it's a 10-year-old kid, they can start at the forward tees. They don't have to start as far back.
Yeah, Your Worship, through the delegation, I think it's a great idea. Is this particular course, would it be a sanctioned course that we could eventually hold provincials, westerns, like are we?
Yeah, basically, any single course is going to be able to host any single tournaments, even the smallest ones. Even the smallest ones in Calgary can host can host any kind of event they want. It's just bringing in the people and having someone run those events, so.
Yeah, perfect, because I think it's important to, if we're gonna do it, to do it so that we can attract those events. And then just, is there a preliminary thought for the second 9?
Yeah, so far, based on just walking around, I brought a practice basket out to the area, tried to play a few holes. It's mostly just too snowy right now for most of it, but we have about 12 holes planned right now. So just trying to plan
There's quite a bit of room there.
Yeah, so
You
to,
could fit 18 on just the east side of the path up to Upland Aspen, or you could do 9 there and do 9 on the other side. Staying away from the paved walking trails for people walking.
yeah, but in order to hold a tournament
You
of
would
any
need-
kind, would you have to have the 18 holes, or do they do?
You
them
would
in-
need 18 just to, because it's quite busy. Like, it's busier than most people would expect to have the full tournament. So just to have everyone playing at the same time, you would need the full 18.
We're confident there's more than enough room to put 18 in that area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, easily.
that's great, thanks.
Your Worship. So I have a little bit of background on disc golf. I have a couple of staff members that actually play in Sylvan and such, and they had reached out and they were asking me about what Innisfail's take on it would be. So I'm glad this is coming forward. Have you guys? I know disc golfers with the elevation change and kind of thinking of where is somewhere in Innisfail that you're not going to have a ton of congestion. Could be kind of seasonal, and one of the thoughts were potentially the ski hill or something like that, with having the elevation changes, having different obstacles, already similar runs already cleared for vegetation and such like that. So that was just something obviously for discussion, but I know it's quite can be quite affordable once you get your initial discs, and I think to make an affordable sport for everybody and on public land, as long as some of the holes that you had presented. As long as there's not abundance of natural vegetation needs to be cleared, and then obviously the ongoing maintenance of, to make sure that we can see how visible this is, right? Like what's the maintenance schedule look like for cutting the grass path to make sure it's very defined which hole is which, because obviously that would be one of my only really questions to you guys. So, but yeah, if you have anything to add, Josh.
Mostly the ski hill wouldn't be super great, mostly because it's too steep. So lots of your shots are either going to go too far. It's going to be someone throwing uphill, really not super exciting. So there's courses that are built on lots of ski hills, but those are like Whistler, where there is enough flat area where you can have the courses kind of there, and also it's mostly too small to kind of have like a full 18 hills over in that area, where in Napoleon Lake area is just so big that you can't have the full 18.
Okay, and you would know, so that's thank you for that.
Is there a rule with the ski hill being privately owned that
I'm not.
when we build these things, we hand them over to the town right when we're done? So
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It was something that was brought up to myself, and it was just a question. And if it's not optimal for size or whatever it may be, it was just kind of an idea to dual purpose something, summer and winter.
Yes, through your worship. Question is, so normally would you leave the baskets up year-round and,
Yeah, lots of the baskets are made with galvanized steel, so we have like Innova and Dynamic Disc are two of the companies that make them. They make them for year-round use. And in Calgary right now, courses are still seeing a whole bunch of play, even though there's a foot of snow on the ground. Like yesterday, my friend went to Baker Park, which is one of the courses in Calgary, and he said there's probably 50 people on the course, and it's an 18-hole course and still busy, even though it's the middle of winter, so they're able to leave the whole baskets in the daytime.
and are they very resilient? Like,
Yeah, the baskets that have been there have probably been there for around 10 years now. And
so they're not prone to vandalism and that sort of thing?
mostly I haven't really noticed any of the courses get vandalized, like in
Yeah,
all
well,
years
yeah,
I
you
haven't
hope, but,
seen
yeah,
it,
but they're tough.
yeah, they're-
Okay, thank you.
They're built to stand up to.
Big dogs.
Yeah, Your Worship, through the delegation, I guess my hesitation until I see further plans, I guess, is the disruption, what kind of disruption there's going to be on the trails around that area. Those trails are used year-round by cyclists and walkers, and that concerns me. Like even as Councillor Hill said, how much vegetation is going to be disrupted. We have one nice park in Innisfail, and we don't have a lot of places for people to go walk and ski, cross-country ski and everything else. So that would be something I would like to see if you're bringing forward more of a plan, and how much disruption there may be from, I guess, noise and whatnot that's backing houses in upland Aspen as well.
It's a pretty minimal in terms of how much noise disruption there are, and all the holes that we've planned right now don't interfere with any of the courses. I went out and on that map, all the holes and all the pathways that are even the non-concrete pathways, just pathways in the trees, I outlined with red kind of marked off the areas, so all the holes right now don't interfere with any of the pathways. They're all kind of in natural areas where the trees were already kind of split open, like in the top right-hand corner, you'll see how it goes deep into the trees. There's already a natural break in the trees in that area where there's a little bit of a gully, so it doesn't actually interfere with any of the existing trails.
I think just the one trail that's directly north of that, there is a trail there,
Yep.
and it's,
Your Worship, through to Councillor Barclay, our intent would be not to have an impact on the
Yeah.
existing trail
Okay.
users. Most of that area, though it's utilized this time of year, there's lots of tobogganers in that lower part. During the summer, there's really not a lot of people up in there because it's really undeveloped. We walk through there just before the snow, and the grass is up to your knees. So it's not well used right now, but that would be our intent, is we'll work with Parks and Recreation to set it up so that we're not going to have an impact on it.
Yeah, no, that's my concern. I mean, I go to the dog park almost daily, and I do a lot of walking around that park, and there are people that use the north side without question. And also, we have spoke in the past about maybe trail coming down through the cemetery and down through the south side of the park as well to connect into Centennial Park. So I just want to make sure that that's not too disruptive. I mean, I certainly don't mind disc golf, all in favor of it, as long as we're not taking away from recreation that's there for other people as well.
yeah, a number of parks in Calgary and that, this disc golf goes right through their park. They don't have any open area like this, so they share it. There's just warning signs, there's people playing. You can see it, they're not going like a golf ball, they're going 100 feet, not 300 yards. But right there, I think just the one above was the only one where it was kind of a trail through. And there's some holes that in a really good disc golf where you gotta kind of shoot straight. Not a really long hole, but that's a challenging hole. Like a tunnel hole where the foliage can even be just 10 feet high, and that's all you get for a low straight shot.
Through the delegation, do you see any, by your budget, it doesn't look like there'd be any financial impact to the town. Do you see any ongoing financial impact to the town? Like, do we have any increased, you said the grass is 3 feet tall. Do we need to mow the grass in there occasionally, or is there gonna be any increases to the town because of this?
Your worship, through to Councillor Rayberg. The intent would be, once we build it, we would work with the town to take it over. Really, it would be mowing it a few times a year. They don't have to be mowed like a golf course, but I think ideally they want to keep the grass a little bit shorter so they can find their discs on what's considered fairway. So it would be a little bit of mowing, but hopefully not a big impact.
And how wide would a fairway have to be then, like a couple passes with a mower, like
I think they vary in difference from, 10 or 15 feet to 20, 25, and Josh might be able to speak to that.
Yeah, the larger one in that top left corner might be 50 feet wide, so it's gonna be a little bit larger, but lots of the smaller ones are only gonna have to be around 20 to 15 feet wide, that lots of the holes in the trees, you might not even need to bring a mower into it, just because there isn't going to be grass growing on the ground a whole lot, and
Well, you're already mowing the ones through the trees.
the holes are mostly, just through foot traffic get worn down enough that mowing it once a year is usually fine for maintenance.
so it would be I guess a minimal impact to the Parks Department is
That would be our intent.
intent, yeah. Okay, no, I think it's, I would be in favor of, giving it approval in principle and having you come back with more details, I believe, so.
Your worship, through the delegation, so I understand that the intent is minimal clearing. I have a little experience with another disc golf course in Hinton, and they put in 9 holes and you wouldn't even hardly know it was there. I don't know if you've been to that course, Josh,
I
but
haven't been to it, but I know it's really high
yeah,
rated.
so, depending upon how wide your mowers are, you could probably get away with very minimal clearing. And the second thing, for mowing, there's grass species out there now that, that grow about 1/4 of an inch a year, and, once that's planted, then you don't have to, I've played it, it is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't very good at it, but it was certainly a lot of fun, and like I say, that course in Hinton's like it's in a forest, and they're busy every weekend, so yeah. So I would support concept, and looking for more detail. Thank you.
Yes, with that conversation, just for my clarification, so the green are the actual holes with the fairways, and then the red are just walk connects to get to the next tee box? Is that what those are?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Your worship, to the delegation, sorry. Can you just outline again the process? And my question to that, once you speak to that, is there a public engagement process, knowing that any removal of trees is fairly sacred in municipalities, especially urban? Just wondering if there's an appreciation of the public engagement component to a project.
Your worship, through to administration, if we get approval in principle to proceed with this, what our next step would be to go out and do some detailed design and work with town staff, on alignment and what impacts it'll have. Some of that up in the upper right there, I think they use for snow dumps, so we'd want to work with Dan and his team to make sure we're not going to impact them. Then once we have a more detailed plan, that's when we'd come back to administration, and if we'd like to do some public engagement, I think that'd be a great idea, because not only will we get comments, but it'll also help promote what we're trying to do, hopefully help us sell those last 4 holes. And then, once we get an approval from council to proceed, then we would look to go to construction. But if we want to have some public consultation, we'd be more than open to doing that.
Your worship, just one other question to the delegation. We talk about wanting to always see the bigger picture, and this is obviously, the goal would be to have 18 holes. Now, I know you didn't prepare it in the package, but would the other 9 holes be assumed that would just be on the west side of the main path, going up to Upland Aspen? Is that the assumption, or?
there's lots of room in there. Like, there's a bit of an area like this just north of Stony, close to where my kids live, and it's 18 holes, and it's probably a third of the area this has to work with, and it's still pretty spread out. Like, going 200 feet versus 200 yards, you don't need a lot, and some tee boxes, your basket's here, and then you walk back 50 feet, and that's your next tee shot from there, so there's room for 18 right there, easy.
Your worship, through to Councillor Hill, when we bring our package forward, we'll have a layout of 18 and then show what the first 9 we're going to do are, but we'll have the plan for all 18.
Perfect, thank you.
Your worship, through the delegation, are you hoping to this spring? Is that the plan?
Ideally, if we can get approvals in place, we'd like to get this built the first 9 early in the year, and then hopefully, you know, through advertising and whatnot, if we can raise the funds to do the back 9 this fall, would be our perfect world. If not, we'll do 9 this year, do 9 next year. It'll really be based upon the fundraising.
It'll go up pretty quick if you just need a concrete pad and to stick your basket in the ground 300 feet that way. There's, and then your hole's done.
Your worship, our intent would be that we would build the park and then we'd turn it over to the municipality, and our intent would be like all of the playgrounds we've built, is that there'd be no charge to the community to use. Ideally, we would, through corporate sponsorship, raise the money to build it, and then ask that the municipality maintain the grass and whatnot, and like we've done in other parks in 10 or 15 years, when we need to go in and replace it, then we would fundraise and replace them again.
It's pretty much free across North America. I think Josh said there's a couple fancier courses somewhere in the States maybe where they charge you a little bit because they made them quite a bit more elaborate, but this is just like a playground. It's free to use, it's exercise, it's COVID friendly because you're spread out. You've got lots of pluses.
I can see if there was some structures there, the wall system could be removable in the winter time if there was a snow dump area or something like that. I'm sorry?
Your worship, that's correct. And actually, what they do in some courses, they'll actually put in 2 receivers for the basket, so
Yeah.
you can move your whole placement, and we would be able to set those so that they're down low enough that if we had to put something where it have impact for snow dump, we'd be able to remove them in the winter and whatnot.
Your worship, just through to Josh, do they have leagues, Josh, like area leagues in Calgary and that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, there's a league, as far as I can remember, there's definitely leagues. There's almost every day of the week we'll have a separate league. It's really, really popular
So
right now.
is there a league in central Alberta? Because I know Sylvan has a course, but,
Currently not. There's
Okay.
not lots of the courses in central Alberta aren't super exciting compared to the courses that are
okay.
in other places in the province. Lots of them are pretty flat and they're an open field, so that's why this one would be so exciting for central Alberta, and that it's really going to be one of the nicer courses in the area. So
Okay, thanks.
Wetaskiwin ranks as the top course in Central Alberta.
What's that?
Wetaskiwin.
Wetaskiwin, okay.
Okay, were there any other questions for the delegation? Well, I think we appreciate your input, and I'm sure council will discuss it soon as to what level of support they can offer you, or, you know, if in fact they do. So we would certainly get back to you as soon as possible, because I'm sure you've got a lot of planning to do if you're going to get it going in the spring. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, your worship and council, for letting us speak today.
Yeah, thanks.
thank you. Okay, I guess we'll discuss this at a later date, or
really up to council. You can, now or later, it's, or next week, whatever you want. Your worship, I just think since it's fairly fresh, we had just got the information, I think it would be maybe appropriate to discuss now, but that's just my,
No, I would certainly entertain a discussion now, at least a straw count as to, support for it.
I would definitely support the initial idea, and I would like them to come back to us with what more the detailed plan would be. So yes.
I'll echo those words that I would support the concept and like to see the next portion of the presentation.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea, and I think they should move forward to 18 holes so that we can look at getting tournaments and attract people to town. I think it's another great thing for the town.
You bet.
Yeah, I support the concept, but I do want to see what kind of disruption there will be around that area, and what 18 holes will mean. It's kind of difficult to kind of, I guess, think about it when we're not sure of that. There are a lot of people that walk up in that area. We can say that there's not, but there is. There's a lot of traffic that goes through there. So I guess as long as that traffic can remain and those walkers still have their place to go and it doesn't disrupt it, then have no issues. And I like the idea, CEO Becker, about some public engagement on this. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, as I stated before, I think I'd be interested in seeing giving them the approval in general and see what they come up with for us.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I support the concept, but still require more detail. So when they come back with detailed drawings and have a look at it, but I support the concept.
CEO Becker, have you got any input?
Just hearing, Your Worship, just hearing council's feedback, just to help anticipating some verbiage to give us some direction. You can make a motion similar to this if you would like at an AMP meeting, but just wording, it's a little bit wordy, but for council to approve the Innisfail Kinsman disc golf concept in principle and direct administration to work with the Kinsman Club in the development of the project. Detailed design to be reviewed with council at a future meeting.
Your Worship, I'll make that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Further discussion? I know Councillor Barclay has some concerns that I'm sure administration will take into consideration on the impact of the walking trails and that type of thing, working with them, but which is certainly a valid point. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'm assuming you'll let the Kinsman Club know. Thank you. Moving on to ECC COVID-19 report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll introduce it. I'd like to have Gary's input on, with his knowledge of what's currently going on with some of the provincial government restrictions. As we've heard last week, that the government has introduced targeted measures to those communities in the enhanced list. And I just wanted to pull up a little bit of a map here to show you those areas that have been indicated of the enhanced lists. As we know, the regions are designated as open, watch, or enhanced status. We are currently in the open. As you'll see on the map, we're in pretty decent shape compared to other parts of Alberta. However, things are progressing a little bit in the areas, for what I understand. But as the map we'll just go right down to the map, Vanessa, there, and pull that up. But everything indicated in purple would be considered enhanced. You can see that the Edmonton region, and I'd say Calgary, south, and going east are the major areas considered enhanced. So the open areas that we are considered a low level of risk, less than 50 active cases per 100,000 people. The watch areas, province is monitoring and engaging with local governments, and they have at least 10 cases and more than 50 active cases. And enhanced, of course, is
I can't remember the stat on that, but it's above, I can't even remember the number actually on the enhanced, Gary, if you recall, but this is the nature of our conversation right now on through the recreation facilities, more so in the arena, due to, for example, Red Deer being enhanced, they shut down for a 2-week period on their recreation facilities and other amenities. Obviously, that's not affecting us, so we have not altered our programming. Although minor hockey has made some adjustments internally to halted some of their games with those of the metro areas. And really, minor hockey is regulating what is happening with their program. So Gary, maybe from your perspective, if you could maybe add in share council your knowledge of what's going on with COVID.
Yeah, so I'm sure you're aware we had some fairly big impacts because there was some changes in the requirements for quarantine and isolating with regard to what was confirmed contacts. So we had an employee in town, I'm sure this was gone through. We had a number of people who were confirmed contacts with that individual. We also had individuals on the fire department who had subsequently had confirmed contacts with other persons outside of our community. And that led to the 14-day quarantine issue, regardless of whether they come back with a negative test. So that, from my department's point of view, I lost 3 staff, the full-time staff due to quarantining, and also lost 3 members of the fire department within a very short period of time for 14 days. So the impacts are quite significant now with those confirmed contact pieces, and we are seeing growing numbers in our community. And literally before I came into the meeting, the high school sent messages out to parents that they've got a confirmed case in the high school here in town.
So, Gary, I understand then that there was nothing was carried. No one else was.
Everybody tested negative at this point, but they
negative.
still required to quarantine for 14 days, even with a negative test.
And that's done on Wednesday or something, isn't it?
Thursday of this week, yeah.
Oh.
Some of the fire departments are out till Friday.
Oh, yeah. Do you, it's hard to track, I guess, how or where that individual picked it up, or how much he was the potential there to have spread more if, say, your staff weren't wearing masks, or?
Your Worship, it was basically in the work environment, so in the office, where they failed to physically distance by 3 feet.
Yeah.
So they weren't wearing masks at the time, and they failed to observe that and were in close contact for more than 15 minutes, which meant that was something that they had to go and get a test for and also self-isolate.
Yeah. Well, whatever, we're very fortunate it didn't get out of control.
So Your Worship, through to Chief Leaf, I'm wondering, what you think we should do. I mean, we know cases are growing exponentially in the province. I wrote down some stats. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen active cases rise 85%. We've seen ICU beds, the use of those rise 132%. And we've seen hospitalizations rise 87%. So with kind of 1,000 new cases each day on the weekend, we're now at a point, I understand this morning, there's a surge protocol in place, so they're trying to find another 30 ICU beds in Alberta. Of course, that gets taken out of other areas of hospitals, and people in our community may not get the care they need because the tertiary centre will not be able to take them on. I heard this morning a lady that went to the Royal Alec in Edmonton, she was 28 hours to get a broken arm looked at. I think we need maybe some more communication out of the town. All this anti-mask rhetoric that's going on. There's stats that are showing that by wearing a mask, we can reduce the spread by 70%. And I would like to see that maybe the town do more messaging around that. And I know Red Deer City Council today is having an emergency meeting about what they're going to do, but you know, it is quite benign in our community, but as you say, it's starting to impact us. And, you know, we need to do something to make people more aware. And the other thing that, you know, people think by wearing masks or doing a few non-pharmaceutical things that we're asked to do that impacts economic activity. Well, it's exact opposite. When we see the rise in COVID cases, we see the risk rising, people then tend to stay home and economic activity declines. So for us to keep our community moving forward, we need to keep the community safe. And over the last few days, I have had people say to me, I'm not going to go out as much as I once was. I'm going to go back to what I was doing in the spring because they're afraid to be out there and be exposed. So just wondering if you think we need some more communication efforts. What should be done in our community? Should we think about masking?
The experience of the last, Your Worship, through to Councillor Barclay, the last 2 weeks has sort of made us look internally far more at what our habits have become and are developing and how we need to change them to keep ourselves and our community safe. That's for sure. The contact tracing piece, which we heard a lot about, currently they're trying to recruit, I think, just shy of 400 people to do that. The cases that are in our community that are in low risk environment, which would be here in our administrative office or even in the fire department, they haven't got enough contact tracers to contact those people and follow through with that. So we have to carry out due diligence by ourselves, contacting people and letting them know that potentially we've been exposed or we actually are a confirmed case. So we have to be active and proactive in that piece and take that responsibility. The use of PPE as recommended, I would speak to that and say I don't see any reason why we wouldn't, because it would significantly impact what we do if we didn't do that. On the EMS side of it, for medical first response, we have to go with AHS protocols to ensure that we're not exposed, and that we can come back to our families and continue doing what we do. So, yeah, I think within our community we need to increase that education for sure, and make sure that people are willing to come forward and speak and clearly communicate when there is potential for those contacts.
And Your Worship, through to Chief Leith, I know AHS has said that they're hiring more contact tracers, but even with the additional ones, they will never keep up to what's going on right now. So people are having to do that work themselves, basically. So it's almost impossible, right, for everybody to be contacted. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think things are kind of spiraling out of control right now. And would you like to say something? No, I just want to laugh.
It's a matter of opinion that things are spiraling out of control. That's what I'll say.
Well, and I think it's important that we get our facts, not opinions, from sources. And when we're sharing sources that are from certain types of places, because they fit our opinion, that's one thing. But as elected officials, I think it's really important that we look at evidence and facts that's being collected by the epidemiologists and the infectious disease specialists, not somebody from a community that's of 3,500 people in Maine.
Couldn't agree more.
Your Worship, I just, the thing is too, as I guess Chief Leith, I understand there's, we don't want to, get too far ahead of ourselves, but I still feel obviously your focus probably would be try to be proactive versus reactionary, to try to stay a little bit ahead of it. Is that kind of how you guys, like, how would you, with seeing the graph or the map of the enhanced and watched and open, is there, and knowing that we're in some proximity to that, is there other protocols that you guys are discussing that we're wanting to keep ourselves in that open space, or?
Unfortunately, because of our location and because we're below 10,000 in population, we're grouped in with the county, which could work in our benefit or also against us. We only with ourselves and the county and the other smaller communities that's covered within that 33,000 person block, is it only takes 17 cases to be an enhanced. 16 to 17 cases, which isn't a large number. So we need to recognise that and be ready that we will, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, we will potentially drop into that shortly.
Yes, Your Worship. Just comments, I guess. Mostly, when I look at how fast I think it is changing, I'm not sure about opinions, but I mean, we sat with our MLA last Monday and everything was just fine. And then this comes out, and the reality is we're on this QE2, and it's a super highway of people interacting, and even the arena type situation. So we're good to go. But as somebody wrote us recently, it's fragile. And obviously they can't play the teams now that are from these other areas, and I think you're going to see this change rapidly. And I do agree with Councillor Barkley. I don't know to what degree we can enhance education, because some people just do not want to listen. They are absolutely, they've made up their minds. And until something happens close to them, I don't think they're going to listen. That's the concern I have. And so to the degree that we can educate people the ones that will listen, the ones certainly as they all of a sudden can't play hockey, it's amazing how they start to pay attention. Something as simple and as non-necessary as that. And so as those realities sink in, and I think, it's my opinion, I'll be real surprised if this comes off in 2 weeks. I just don't see it. But so those are my thoughts.
Well,
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Chief Leith. Chief Leith, do you have any idea how many, or does Alberta Health Services have any idea how many asymptomatic cases that they're picking up? Because that's what concerns me, is that there could be people, and now I'm using some data from the States, that that's the concern. There's people walking around that don't even know that they could be infecting other people. So is there any idea? Have you heard?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Harrison. At this point in time, they're not testing for asymptomatic. They're only testing for those who are close contact or symptomatic. So the reality is I don't know, and they don't either.
Your Worship, through the Councillor Harrison, I understand that with the contact tracing, they're not getting to, I don't know, something like 60% of the people, even through contact tracing. So that's part of the issue right now. The system's just so overloaded.
Your Worship, one last question to Chief Leith, and this very large question, obviously, but my question when we have these discussions is Innisfail doing enough? And I guess being such a broad question, that's what I just posed to everyone is, are we doing enough to protect our community? And obviously I don't expect a thorough answer because that's very big, but that's what's on the tip of my mind. Are we doing enough? Like we talk about how we can, what tools we can use, but are we doing enough?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Hill. Sticking to the recommendations and mandates of public health and Alberta Health Services, I think that's the key right now from my side of it, is that if we're going to turn around and keep our community safe, we have to promote that as a group, as administration, as well as a community, promote following those guidelines and those orders that are set in place currently.
Your Worship, through the Chief Leith, or maybe CEO Becker, would it be possible to even have a, like kind of a positive ticket program for, you know, people wearing masks, that kind of thing? I think there's still some stigmatization around it that we did that with the skate park a little bit, did we not? To try to get kids to wear helmets and...
Yeah, we certainly, Your Worship, Councillor Barclay, we can maybe talk about that Wednesday at ECC, some initiatives to help promote some of the restrictions that are outlined by the province. Yeah, we'll take that under advisement perhaps, and then we can maybe chat about that on Wednesday. From my perspective, you were informed that, and through the media was informed too, that the town staff, we shut down the office one day due to one staff having been tested positive. And so we did shut down the office, as you know, due to precaution and get organized. As Gary indicated, the fire department was impacted due to his situation. So that impacts service. And so even, and not to put this on that our staff member, it's just so happened, but it doesn't impact our services we do have to the community, which we don't have a policy framework, but staff have openly volunteered and strongly do not have a problem wearing masks to help make sure we're conducting our services to the community as best we can and not have people off, because it does have a significant impact on all staff when we have members away.
Well, I think just my kind of observation of things that are happening, and a lot of the issues are people still forming groups and gatherings and such, and they feel safe, they know each other, and they don't wear protection or whatever. But I think until, well, I don't know how long it's going to take, but you can put as many rules as you want out there, and when people are not prepared to believe it and think that it's not going to happen to them. Unfortunately, it just takes one person in that group to affect it. But I think, I don't know, the single next step they would probably make, would that be to cut out all groups, similar to what it was back in March? No cohort gatherings. You know, are these what they're doing in the bigger centers now, Gary?
Your Worship, the only ones that have currently public health orders in place from the Chief Medical Officer are Calgary and Edmonton.
Yeah.
They're quite detailed on what they are, the restrictions on numbers in gathering, etc. Also trying to keep those cohort groups limited as well, how many you can actually be part of.
Well, I don't think, you know, what I'm seeing here in our community, the way the control has been, and we have a pretty responsible outcome so far of COVID. I'm not sure how many cases are in active care right now. If there are in fact any, I'm not sure, but we're pretty fortunate, and I think our smaller rural communities have that advantage, but somehow we have to impress this group gathering thing more than anything is the one single issue I think that can affect us right here. But is there any other questions? Well, I think...
Your Worship, I have one other question. So the reason I'm wearing this mask today is because we had the case, and there became kind of a movement within this office. And so I guess the question is, what can we do? What should we do? It's hard to step ahead of the government, I think, of Alberta, because we do have so many people that move around and come in, and then you have the people that don't believe it. But so is it the will of administration and supported by council, or is it supported that we make a facility such as this a mask area? Or I'm just curious. We're all wearing them except for one right now, but is that like, what are we doing tomorrow in this building? What are we doing next week in this building? Because I know there's other councils that aren't meeting. The group, the RDR Mug group that I was going to on Thursday, it's gone back to Zoom, and 2 or 3 of those community, I think Olds has met like this for months. They never did get back.
Yeah, Olds has got the plexiglass
Oh, they're back now with that?
telephone.
So they just got back because they weren't for a long time. So at some point, I guess, it's what can and should we do as Innisfail within our capabilities? I guess it's a rhetorical question more than having the answers.
Well, if people don't use common sense and work with us, all we can do is at least try to, within the confines of that we have control of. And I think you've done the right thing, Mr. CAO, in making it a masked area, especially except for right in the immediate work area that your staff are in. But
Well, to the question, Council, it's legally we have to. That was clear last week, and we got a little loose, and then it kind of hit home, I must admit. And again, I as well. So not putting this onto staff at all, but with what's going on with that respective employee. So again, we legally have to get tested if you're that's within that 6 feet for 15 minutes. So as an employer, we have no option but to follow what's expected of us. There's no other way, because I'm not going to do anything different but do that, as our staff will as well. So we have no choice. So it's all laid out for us right now until we come purple, status quo to what the expectations are, and only because something happened to us that really was a reminder that, and then the impact to our organization by people having to be away and testing negative. And again, you can dispute and debate those expectations because some of them don't make sense to me, but that's what they are. I have no choice but to follow what those are, whether I agree with them or not. So I think it's not that difficult. It's just a reminder due to the difficulty of the one employee that we need to get back on board and do what's expected of us.
Your Worship, through to CEO Becker, I guess going back to that messaging, I think it's really important for us, if we are going to do some kind of a communication strategy, that the success in the community is going to be tied to if people are following some pretty basic things. So if we want to keep our economy open, we want to keep our businesses healthy, then social distance, wash your hands, wear a mask when you can't. And I think that if we can tie those two together, because right now it's, if we just say, oh, do this, and do this, and there's not really, here's the goal of doing these things, then a lot of people kind of, yeah, whatever. But I know just anecdotally, I think going into stores, like Co-op, for example, you're seeing a lot more people mask up than what we were a couple of months ago, which is good. So that's what I would like to see the town do.
So, Your Worship, just CEO Becker, so the expectation of the town of Innisfail for such as our entryway of the building, obviously all our staff are expected to wear masks, but it is just at the discretion of the citizen to wear a mask if they choose to. There's not an actual expectation of a mask zone or a masked area.
Your Worship, Councillor Hill, that's correct. We don't have a policy or bylaw framework established that requires people to wear masks, or they're supposed to wear masks. That's for the restrictions. If you cannot achieve 6 feet, then you're supposed to be wearing a mask. And I think it's 15 minutes for a period of time. But it'd be up to you as council to implement those restrictions through a policy or bylaw framework. And you have that authority to do that.
Well, I think we're restricted to 2 people in that limited confined area. And there is a barrier there too, as well as if the staff are wearing a mask for their protection. I don't know. I think we're doing a great job. I would just watch it here every day and golly, you know, I don't think, I quite frankly, I think what we're doing, like Councillor Barkley said, is masks and distancing and just basically what we're doing now. I don't know what else we could add to it. But unless anyone else has any comments or suggestions that we could expect of administration to carry it any further, or do we go with the current basis that's somewhat a provincial standard at this point for our community?
Your Worship, I think the intent was just to give you a little bit more detail than normal, just to kind of show you through a map what's going on. We're in a pretty decent area right now, but it's 2 weeks out, as we know. There is some indication there's more cases forthcoming, but we don't have that detail yet. So I think as things progress, I think we have more tools you can introduce, but I think right now the intent is just to give you that information and get ready for maybe some additional conversations in the near future.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, I guess we've heard our report. Is someone prepared to make a motion we accept this report for information?
I'll make it. Oh.
Moved by Councillor Harrison. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Lead. Well, we dive right into this budget thing. Okay, Director Wymark, I'll turn the floor over to you.
I'm going to let my co-partner start.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I guess I got to start, so.
The newbie.
The newbie guy. So what we thought we'd do is give you a quick overview of the 10-year capital plan that we've been working on, which kind of sets a framework towards, I guess, where we worked on the capital this year and how the decisions got made in regards to priorities, in regards to just major capital projects. So a 10-year capital was developed, focused on the 2 main areas, roads and utilities. The intent here is to obviously grow this plan to include our fleet, parks, trails, water, wastewater, and facilities, rec facilities in 2021. Projects were prioritized based on infrastructure that was assessed using risk to fail, age, and history, then allotted into 2 groups, roads and utilities. The projects were then separated into years that they were intended to be completed based on the severity and the annual funding limits. What we did is budget levels were based on kind of our previous few years of capital planning, which was approximately $2 million spent on utility replacement, projects and about $1 million spent on road-related projects. Best efforts were made to develop the plan basing this criteria. However, due to the project scopes and anticipated phasing of certain projects, a deviation does occur through year to year. So if you want to change to the next map, Vanessa, this is the location of our 10-year priorities based on that assessment. A system performance forecast was developed to show how these planned areas affect the overall assessment rating for each utility using a $3 million budget. Utilizing the forecast models that were prepared in the 2020 State of Infrastructure Report, which will be presented to you next week, we are able to predict how the capital improvements identified in the capital plan will affect the overall level of service for each system. The following provides kind of an example. If you want to scroll to the next one, Vanessa, this is our forecast impact projection of how we can kind of look at each utility and its grade based on using our current $3 million capital investment. So as you can see, based on the road network here alone, using that projection, we're actually maintaining, slowly creeping up. But then we did a comparison using half. So if we were to reduce that to $1.5 million a year, you can see how our infrastructure starts to deteriorate and our rating slowly goes down. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we came up with prioritizing. Obviously, we have ability to adjust projects throughout the plan because obviously there's a wide variety of infrastructure that needs to be replaced. So based on priority, we did it based on breakage, severity, age, and then collaboration, obviously, with Dan and the group on severity areas. So this is kind of just a snapshot of the roads. The next one is a snapshot of our water system. Based on, again, using that $3 million, you can see we actually degrade a little bit based on the money we have. And then the next one's the wastewater, I believe. Same thing there. You can see we're maintaining a C+ grade. Hopefully we can continue that, but as you can see, funding is limited, but we're looking at strategies of how we can improve this based on the dollars that we have. So, and then stormwater, I believe actually that one is a hard one because our stormwater, we haven't actually put a lot of money in the past. So that one, we are slowly building as we go along. So that's kind of a snapshot of our 10-year capital. Next week, we'll kind of give you a little more detail in regards to how we came up with these and how we assessed each utility, and then move forward from there. I'll hand over to Heather.
So now you can go back. So what I put in the agenda is the spreadsheet is the projection of capital projects for 2021. These are funded, fully funded on this sheet. The second sheet was ones that were not in budget yet. So we wanted to sort of have this conversation with you as to what you felt was a priority. He did disappear. What was a priority and what you feel is not. So let's start with going over the capital sheet. So I have just let it be known I didn't type this, okay? I'm noticing we have a rain pedestrian crossing. The railway pedestrian crossing is on there for 600. I gave her the day off today. She'll be really good when she comes back tomorrow. This is we put 600,000 in there. We did meet with CP. This is the high end, but we like to budget high so that we're well within our when we get those actual costs. That, of course, is sitting in the general cap reserve already allocated for this reserve. Lighting switch over.
Heather, if I could just interrupt. Sorry.
Absolutely.
So what about the horn cessation?
That is not in this at this point in time. So there's sheets there where you get to add on what you feel might be a priority that is not on this sheet or on my capital, not in the capital.
Okay, because I'll just say all the way along here as we've looked at the rail issues, I think the crossing clearly is the most critical, but the other one I thought was still pretty high priority as well, just making that comment.
Under protective services, we do still have some lighting switchover to be done there, as well as 2 more static speed cameras, which are those cameras up on the poles that you've seen recently, and the fire radio system, where Red Deer County has now gone to AFRAC system. In order for us to get those calls, our guys have to now have AFRAC's radios to be able to go out and do the work out in the county with them. Planning and under planning and operational infrastructure. So we know the Building Canada grant is going to continue here into the last year. This is the last part of it. And we have those projects left to do there. We are doing the sewer relining, manhole relining to help with infiltration. There was some work that still needed to be done to the park's shop roof repairs and the public workshop repairs. New columbarium, which was already brought to council there a couple of weeks ago. So our major project that we're putting in for infrastructure is 53rd Avenue, 1.1 million. 46th Avenue infrastructure repairs. That was the MSP, right? Or have I got it reversed? Sorry. I got it reversed. Yeah, so 53rd is the MSP that you guys already approved. The 46th Avenue is the next one, according to our asset management, that should be done next, as well as surface improvements and mill overlays on certain roads. There's a diesel generator in there that we require at pump 3. This is the 3rd year I think we've put this off, and now we have put it on here. Utility tractor with attachments. Under parks,
Sorry, Your Worship, can I just interrupt Director Weimark for a moment on the infrastructure, like 46th Avenue? Would that be an MSI project, or?
That will be MSI funding, yes. Yeah.
And
Which is that, 46th Avenue? Ritz and Bennett Park? Yeah. That area?
So it's from 50th Street South.
No. Is it on?
so how much MSI are we expecting? Were we expecting?
Were we expecting? We were expecting approximately 1.5.
Okay.
Some budgets that had to be carried over last year used a little bit of it, so we don't have full 1.5, but close to it. So the surface improvements and the mill overlay is also being funded from reserves on that one. And some federal gas. So we have federal gas money that also is going towards, that is accountable for these ones. So there's close to 800,000 from federal gas coming over. So we had quite a bit of MSI left over from last year's projects. So we get about 430,000. So there was a little bit about 400,000 carried over. Parks. We had a playground in the last year's budget. Unfortunately, we didn't get to that due to COVID. So we've put that on here again, hopefully to get that 50% of it is ours, and to look at our kinsmen fellow people there or someone else who usually likes to partner up with us for those. The Gateway Landscaping Phase 2. We did the Phase 1, which was the trees, and this is the Phase 2. Is being funded there. Recreation software is just a continuation that will be wrapped up by the end of 2021. Wayfinding signs Phase 3 actually is what that should say. Will carry through for this year. The library lighting upgrade, that's still a carryover. The sound wall replacement. So this is something we started last year. This is also coming from MSI Capital. This would be 2nd year. I'm going to leave it at that. I think there may be further discussion depending on our projects you pick as to what that might look like. The ice resurfacer still hopefully be here this year.
Next fall.
Next fall. So next October, September, October. The arena dehumidifier. This was on our capital sheet last year. We did not get to it. However, This is, it needs to be on here now. We've had it on for 3 years. And you'll notice it, may remember it was in at 150. It has gone up considerably in price to be 400,000. Arena still has some roof repairs that need to be done there. The pool. So this is where you're going to see the change in the pool. This thought process is what needs to be done to carry it forward. So they do want to do some replacement of the drainage channel for 250,000 and do some minimal work on the tile pool basin to carry us through. So those are what I have in the capital so far. The next sheet is what I do not have in the capital. So 37th Street. So this is the industrial. And the reason I don't have it in capital is because it's not on the schedule to be replaced. So if council chooses to have it in there, that by all means is well within your parameters. But according to asset management and the way now we need to do our projects, this was not up for repair at this time or anything done with it. So the heliport is on here. 400,000 is the minimum of what it looks like, and anywhere up to 1,000 depending on where you choose that to go, whether it's relocating or what that might look like. There was a request to have cement work done on the sani dump, and that's to make it slanted for easier unload of the waste. That's 25,000. That's not in budget. Water fill station there as well. That's been asked of us, is that there be water there, clean water that they could put in their RV units. That's 30,000. The emergency lagoon pond, I did put this on here because if that comes to pass, we're looking at 800,000 to put in a lagoon depending on what happens with that. And then the Ball Diamond 7 enhancement, and that was the group that came before to enhance that Ball Diamond. It's anywhere between 200 and 400,000. These are unallocated funds as well for this. If you choose to put those in, I go back to the drawing board and figure out what that looks like. But these were ones that administration felt that wasn't the top priority unless it comes out today that they are. So we have put sheets up.
Could I add for sure the?
Absolutely. So I did put blank
Horns
sheets there.
cessation?
Yeah. It was my expectation that council would perhaps have some
Well, maybe
desires
I
of
should
their own.
ask the rest of council. I feel it's a very high priority, the horn cessation. I'm not asking it to get on, I'm asking it to get on the blank sheet up here, I guess.
I would support that. I guess my biggest thing is I always hear, they're almost, maybe they're guilty by association. They're always kind of like, they're happening at the same time, like the community might feel, and that's kind of been the interpretation that the community feels that the pedestrian crossing and is going to be done at the same time as us trying to achieve the whistle sensation or cessation. So maybe that's only me that's heard that, but that's how the people I've talked to have felt, that they're tied together. So if they only see one out of the two, I don't know, I think there's a priority to both, but I would support it on being on the page.
Your worship, I would support what Councillor Bates just said as well. And the one item, the heliport, I would like to put a kind of a caveat around that. Current location support back across from the hospital, but I would like to see us, not necessarily the town of Innisfail fund that 100%, but try to find interest, see what there is in the community. 10 years ago, this community raised 450,000 for a community bus. I think Councillor Rehberger would know that figure better than I would, but it was considerable, and I could see that potentially happening again if we chose to leave it by the hospital, if that was possible.
Just for clarification, Councillor Barkley, the council, that right now the marching orders to get administration is to come back with potential locations, including the current location. So right now we would not be seeking other partners. I don't think that's the direction at this given time. I think that's a conversation council is yet to have. I think maybe kind of hearing the comment being that there's potential partnerships to invest in whether it's current location or another location. We can certainly adjust a number to best fit the budget for this conversation, but right now, until we hear what council wants to do with the heliport, it's very hard to go seek partners as funders.
Okay, Councillor
Your
Kerr.
Worship, through Director Weimark, just a kind of a moot point at this juncture, but the arena dehumidifier, we didn't budget that last year in the arena?
We did. We budgeted 150,000 for it.
Right. but
We
just-
never got to it.
Oh, okay.
But when we had an issue, they came and said, no,
Okay.
you have,
I was
this
just-
has to get done. And when we went back out to price it, it came in at 400,000.
Okay, thanks. I just thought that, I just remember that, so thank you.
Just to add it, it's a very important project, and I shouldn't be pitching, but I think you need to hear in this project, the facility is 30 years old, and it's water, heat, cold. It's in the fall and summer, there's a lot of condensation that impacts the ice. It does a havoc on your infrastructure. So this one, I'd certainly be making sure we do get it in, because it does take away the life expectancy of your facility.
Councillor Reber.
As far as 37th Street, did I see on Stephen's spreadsheet that that's slated to go in 2025? Is that where I saw it? So even though it's not in this year, it is on the schedule coming up, right? Okay. The Sandy dump, as somebody that uses it regularly, it was engineered wrong to begin with. It slants the wrong way. It's got a negative slant to try and dump a tank. So to me, we spent $250,000 or whatever we spent on it. I think we need to spend this extra little bit to make it do what it was designed, what it should do. So to me, that is I just wanted to say, I think that's an important one. The water fill station, the Lions Club struggles a bit at the campground because people come in there expecting to get free water because they think it's a town facility and they should get the free water, even though most of them are Innisfail citizens that are too cheap to do it at home. So, sad to say, but it's true. So I don't know, I have mixed feelings on that one, but I think it would be nice to give them, because people I've watched them do it, they fill their RVs with the hose that I just rinsed my sewer hose out with. They stick that hose in their RV and take water out of it, so I don't know, just a couple comments.
I think, as far as that whistle situation too, I thought it was almost like it would be tied together with the crossing as to how the crossing would be designed and if there was additional fencing required.
Yeah, so I guess through the project that we're working on currently, we have decided, or we've come out with, there's two budget numbers that we need. So we need the 600,000 for the pedestrian crossing and the trail. And then for the whistle sensation, there is an upgrade required at 42nd Avenue in regards to arms needed to put on. So it is a $75,000 investment.
Yeah.
That's why we separated it out, because it is a separate kind of budgeted number. So I probably should have had it on the list, but it is a $75,000 cost that we've, in our meeting with CP here last week, was found out. So that is new through the process that we were able to determine that. Now that would achieve, based on the conversation with them, that would achieve the requirements we need to go further with the whistle sensation.
Yeah, because I think there's some fencing that's going to be required for the crossing.
Actually, it's very minimal fencing. The only fencing that's required is that pedestrian crossing itself. That's just for a duration to the south of the proposed crossing. So I think there was maybe a misunderstanding that there was a requirement for full fencing, or maybe previous requirements for it.
Your worship, through to Director Kennedy, so we can have the crossing at 600 and the additional 75,000 and we're good to go basically on whistle cessation.
That's our understanding based on our last conversation with
Okay.
CP.
And how long does it take, like, once that is installed? Do you then apply, or?
It is public notification.
Okay.
Again, we just go through that formal council resolution.
Yeah.
If that's what council wants, we would go through the process and just notifying all the organizations again.
Okay.
And we're told we could probably have it done, like, again, the crossing, I'm not sure what their timeframe is in order to get arms put on the one. But the pedestrian crossing itself, we're told we could probably have that pedestrian crossing on CP side done in early summer.
Okay, thank you.
So with that additional, your worship, through to Stephen, Heather, and council, with that additional information, if it's only 75,000, then you can hardly hold me back. I want to see the horn. I want to see the horn cessation onto the priority list. And then the other question is, as we spent or allocated some of our opening up funds, we're likely going to see some kind of granting on this 600,000. Is that not correct?
We will be looking at a portion of it. We did get clarification on that. It is a smaller portion than what anticipated was, but he wasn't able to provide us with an actual number.
Well, can we get a ratio of what, because we were told 10 to 90 or 10 to 100, I think.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if it's significantly smaller, maybe we should re-look at that. Because you make a decision with certain information. If the information changes, then we should re-decide, I think.
So we were going to come back forward to council with that on next week in regards to the information we received. He wasn't able to provide us with a number, be it if it's fully allocated just their crossing work. So it could be, like you said, 10%, could be 90%. Where the breakdown is, he wasn't able to provide. And that wouldn't happen until we actually apply for the grant. So that process still
And
is the same.
that grant would be specific to the pedestrian crossing, not to the horn cessation. I keep calling it horn cessation now because it is a horn. It doesn't whistle. It's just a full-on horn. Anyway, I think I've said my piece. I want to see the 75,000 up there.
And just to clarify, because CP keeps changing the goalposts, that we don't have to put fencing up then? Is that
That's
what we're
correct.
understanding?
So it's a matter of, it's about, I think the
this
recommendation
point.
was about 400 meters for the pedestrian crossing.
Okay, and just while I have the mic, water fill station, maybe Danny can, is that just a fresh water fill? That's versus the one that you're talking about, the clean out sewer? Okay, thank you.
Well, I think it's, do I get a consensus for everyone to include the whistle cessation in this budget? And, pardon me? Yeah. Okay, I think,
I already added it on the other.
good girl. Thank you.
Just a question to Director Kennedy, the water fill station would be like the sandy dump, it would be for a fee, correct?
Correct. We look at doing it close to the same location, and it would be a fee based.
I agree that we gotta get that thing, the amount of money we've spent on it, we want it to work properly.
Just to clarify why those are on there, and I know you guys haven't had a chance to see the real budget, the full budget, it's tight. It's very, very tight, so that's why I was looking for your opinion on priority, because those two little amounts are gonna make a big difference in this budget, believe it or not. So it is a very, very conservative, tight budget that's coming to you next week that doesn't have much room. So that's why they're on there. Otherwise, I wouldn't put something like that on there. But I'm looking for money if I have to put those in. It's not sitting on the other side. So I think the thought process was we give you bingo doppers, I think, didn't we? We give them. I am looking for consensus. We've sort of done this in the past where you go and pick your, was it, if it classified as a priority, right? Is that how we're? So the
So to
sheets are there.
clarify that though, do you not have to sacrifice something else or what, or you're gonna have to find the funds? We
Correct.
send Heather looking down all the
You send me
buried
back
cans,
to the.
all the buried cans in the backyard?
Yeah, you send me back to the drawing board if these are come into, that you believe they are a top priority and should be in this budget, then I go back to the drawing board and see what I can do. And I may come back next week and say I did it, and I may come back and say, nope, it's still on this side list and you're gonna have to take something out to put that in.
So even on the other list, Heather, that council can say
Absolutely.
defer.
The big one?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So that sort of brings me to the conversation about the sound wall, and this still isn't fully, there is talk about a multiplex and what that looks like financially going forward. So there's a larger discussions in that, but the sound wall is taking up each year 250,000 of your MSI. I guess the question that I would ask, is that really a top priority for you right here, right now, within this year, next year? Because next year's probably not going to be much difference, if not worse.
So your worship, through to Director Wymark or Director Kennedy with the lagoon pond, we've heard that seems to be somewhat urgent. Would you agree with that? And where does that sit with the various players involved?
It's, we do have a meeting with them on Friday, proposed, we haven't heard back in regards to what their, call it offer or discussion is. We just thought it was important to just show it as that is a possibility that we might be the ones building it in order to keep our Canada grant or Small Communities grant. Your worship, question to Director Kennedy about the sound wall or whoever it may be. I think the reason why it is deteriorating, it is an issue. Is it a safety issue? Is there sections that can just be patched for the time being, or what would be your recommendation? Obviously a full replacement has that extensive cost, but is there something that we can do to shelf it for one more year and still make it safe? Yeah, so that's what we have been doing. We've been just kind of replacing boards as needed, and we've been kind of just maintaining. So with that being said, what we probably, I would recommend is we do another assessment on it. But as of right now, we did take 3 years to try and get to it, was our plan. So is it a safety risk? I would say no. But I would recommend that we probably do another assessment on it. Thank you.
Your worship, just one more question. The wayfinding signage, stage 3, what does that entail? Is that all part of the sign, the entrance sign that was at the McDonald's corner, plus parks, trails and stuff?
It's mainly focused on parks and trails and our playgrounds.
Okay.
We're working further on a couple other ideas in regards to our parks and trails, in regards to wayfinding. So that's what that really entails. It's had nothing to do with our.
So, your worship, one more question. I had it down too, that Councillor Barkley, were you referring to the digital sign that, so did we just take that right out when, where are we at? Did we not have money parked for that somewhere, or is that, where is that?
It was just coming from reserves, and that was going to be a partnership with the chamber.
Right.
The chamber has
Right.
put this to, and so, correct. That
So
is
it's
not
just-
brought back on the table anywhere at this point in time.
So the money never came out of reserves?
No.
Okay.
No.
So the 263 is just for trailhead signs and parks and stuff.
This has been a carryover for the last couple of years, so we just keep using it. There probably will be funds left there at the end anyways, and it's just coming from your rec reserve, so it's, we only pull what we need to spend in that time period.
There's one other thing that we haven't, there's no provision in here is for some future planning of a multiplex project.
Right, so next week. That's not part of this. I have a whole different gamut coming next week to have that conversation and what that looks like and financially where that needs to go. These are just projects so that you're gonna get something on that, but it doesn't affect what these are doing.
Okay, good. So this budget, Heather, represents about 4.6 million total.
Correct. We usually sit around 6 to 8, depending, so it is a little more modest compared to.
What is our biggest drain on the revenue part to offset, is why we've had to cut this back? The general assessment?
No,
biggest
that
cost?
doesn't have anything to do with that. It's your capital funding. So you're coming off 200,000 less of MSI.
MSI.
And you've got, do have some big things in this one. It's just whether you want to add more, right? So, last year we put the first part of the industrial park in there. That was a project in there. We put off 53rd and 46th to put that in. Now, all we're saying is that's our schedule. That's what we should be doing. And 37th is sitting off to the side here unless that's a priority that it gets done sooner than what's scheduled in our capital plan.
So these projects like 46th and 53rd, why the priority on those?
It's based on the assessment, so based on age, breakage, and just overall, I guess, yeah, road condition assessment as well. So it's a combination, those ones have the combination of all utilities plus road. And on the severity side, they're the highest ranked.
So they're a function of just a bad state of affairs with the,
Correct. So they have a high history of breakage, so risk to residents, and then obviously power forces to do those repairs.
it is a little bit disappointing to push aside 37th Street for 5 years. But we've been talking about it so much in the last 2 or 3 years, but is that, I know we'd had a number of discussions with the local businesses in that area and industrial landowners and such. Has this been discussed or mentioned to them that it's going to be postponed for 5 years? Have you had any discussions there?
There's no discussions with them in regards to when these projects would happen. So on 61st, it was kind of the same approach. It was our intent was to go to them with the design. When it would actually get built was council's decision as to the priority. So
I'll add, just as having a business down there, that getting that 61st done was huge, and that I don't think 37th is a priority this year for sure, in my opinion. And whether we can wait 5 years, I don't know, but you know, I think just getting that 61st it improves the whole area, so it wouldn't be a priority for me this year.
I agree with you, Councillor Carrot. The only thing is that 37th, probably a priority would maybe be to put a little better surface on top, whether it's a chipped, or something a little better on the top of it, but and not worry about the storm sewer for now. But that might be an alternative to, to make it a little more usable, friendly. But you might have that discussion with the landowners or something and see if there's, you said, Mr. Becker, that you had a discussion with some of the landowners down there recently?
No, Your Worship, couple of administration members had a conversation with one of the businesses there a while ago.
Yeah. Well, before we put it off for 5 years, I think I would like to have a little more discussion on that one. It seems like a long time for, for an area that one time we thought was a priority. Now it's not.
So I think what will happen with that, if council does not put it on as a priority this year, you're gonna see that same thing up there next year on this same sheet, and you're gonna see it continue until it either gets done or doesn't. It's not that it's not gonna be in, we're gonna forget about it. We know it's there, we know it's something that we talk to those the owners down there regarding that. So I don't think it's disappearing by any stretch. You're gonna see it back on just like this type of list going forward.
Just a question, Heather, just on the funding for it, is there a small communities fund that would be allocated, or how does that impact?
Yeah,
that
so
going?
if I put it in,
Yeah,
yeah, so I can put it in. I can use the building so right now, what's in the current sheet is I put all the sewer and relining to the capital, or to the Building Canada, because we could. This also qualifies under the Building Canada, so it can be put in, and then your sewer relining will come from reserves versus the capital, building capital grant. So that's the one out of that whole list that I do have a way to work around it, should you choose to put it in. It's not gonna affect 46th Avenue. It's not MSI funds that would be used on it. It would be Building Canada grant.
Yeah.
Because that was the one project I resubmitted to get extra funding to use that funds that were available. So it is classified under that.
Your worship, through to Director Weimark, you figured all this out using asset management program, correct? Or?
Our 10-year capital, the start of the asset management.
Yeah, so kind of priority-based budgeting, which is supposed to help us make better decisions, and you kind of come to us and decide what's most urgent.
Right.
I assume, so.
Right, so what you're gonna see from me going forward regarding asset management is I will always comply by the capital and the asset management program, because that's gonna be the expectation, especially from federal gas. They're going to want to know why you jumped a project ahead. They're gonna ask us our plan. So you will always see me bring it in like this, where council gives that request and permission to move it forward, because that's not in my world, because they're expecting that we're following the asset management, and we're doing it as per the age, all the parameters that we have on asset management that determines what gets replaced when. So that's why this one was not. It is in with the 5-year, but that's why it's on the side sheet, that if council truly wishes it to be in there, it's going against the asset management program. So that's why it's done that way. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just that's the format that's being rolled out for funding. So we need to just follow the format of what that looks like.
sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna ask, any idea how much funding we would get for 37th? Did you say that? I missed it, or?
No, I'm saying that federal gas is going to comply by your asset management. So if we jump this ahead, they have the right to come back to us and say, why are you jumping that ahead? It's in your 5-year, not your 1 to 2 year. And that's what I'm talking about for funding. Yeah. Could they deny your funding? No, I don't see that happening, but we're going to have to explain why we've jumped that ahead of 3 other years' work of replacement.
I have a little bit of anxiety with 37th Street and using some of the small community fund for that project, because it also impacts emergency lagoon pond. Those discussions with municipal affairs have not occurred, and the best case scenario, we can allocate small communities fund through a request to that pond. So I'm really a little bit insecure about those 2 projects, moving one of them or both of them at the same time.
Your worship, I do have one other question through to admin. So the Gateway Landscaping Phase 2, what do we get for that 110? And would it leave us looking like it was partially done if we didn't do that?
What that one entails is the planters along 50th, along the north side of 50th as we came into town. So that's what that second phase focused on.
Not the sign,
Still not the sign.
the letter sign.
That's right. It was broken into 4 phases in total. So this is the second phase along there. Third phase would be extra plantings and growth along the south side of 50th. And then the 4th phase was the discussion of the lettering or some type of sign.
Okay. We actually got a bonus this year with the paving the province did. Sure made everything look good out there. Anyway, thank you.
I think the heliport is gonna have to, we're gonna have to make a decision on that here before too long, exactly what we're gonna do. And, take a serious look at the community. If there's another location we can look at, otherwise, we're gonna have to make a hard decision. And it's not gonna go away, so, you know, we've gotta come to some kind of conclusion on that, or whether we can even try and do it next year or the year later. The time frame, we've got a year's relaxation, but I mean, that's just somebody's number they pulled out of the air. I mean, if you 2 or 3 years down the road you wanted to put in a heliport, you'd have to go through the same hoops and hurdles.
Your worship, we obviously agonized over that last meeting, and so it's probably not going to go away, the agony. A couple of questions I do have, though, with the heliport. So we were told last meeting that there were 2 trips through the Big Bend. I guess I would like to have our finger on the pulse, not knowing how long it is going to be before we do something, or if we do something. I'd like to have a finger on the pulse of future trips that do come and go out of Big Bend. And technically, does Big Bend give it any advantage, is there a beacon out there or something, or is it landable in conditions that in town wouldn't be? I have no idea, just a question. And who would take the initiative, because it was suggested a couple of times, who would take the initiative to see if, when they make a trip, whether or not there could be coordination with CP Rail? Who would do that?
Your worship, to Councillor Bates, that would be part of the management plan, operational plan. We just did a rough calculation through Steve and Megan, but we have not get into those fine details to look at those options at this point.
Well, and the reason I asked that question is it would just seem like somebody should do that. Like, it's probably almost free to ask the question from Alberta Health Services or whoever dispatches that helicopter.
Notify CPR.
Well, make the question to CP.
Yeah.
If we have 20 minutes, who do we call? And will it do any good? Because it might help tomorrow. Like, why wouldn't we ask those questions?
So, Your Worship, to Councillor Bates, we'll certainly take those types of questions to help us with our work to, again, the direction was to take the current location plus look at other potential locations, come back to council with a report. Likely, some sort of matrix, good and bad, kind of a listing, and something we can certainly look into probably within that research. You might have other questions pop up as you see that information as well.
I guess what I'm having difficulty with is I don't see any funding. I see it as a communication link between somebody and somebody, and you may have a landing 2 days from now that could be positively impacted if that communication could occur. And it just seems, maybe it's not our job, but it seems like somebody should ask those questions.
I think our contact with CPR can probably answer that question. But
And then if he could answer it, and if it is affirmative, then
Yeah.
we just make that connection to the health people, and maybe you achieve that benefit. Maybe that helps us make the decision down the road. I don't know. I'm not trying to drive it in any direction. Those were just questions that came up as I'm thinking about it.
So again, I think once you see the information that we're currently working on, you'll probably have further questions similar to that. we're gonna try to get all the answers to your questions, anticipate what they are, but your feedback, once you review that report, will likely create additional questions.
Okay,
So-
any other,
Do you just want to go one, do guys want to mark on the sheet, or do you just want to say yay or nay, or,
well,
or go away, or send me away?
But do we only get allowed to use three, like, our top three priorities? Because if we all just dab all the sheets, then like, are we supposed to only pick 3 or 4, or?
We get 3 dots?
Yeah, but the Dobbs can be 25,
I understand it.
30,000 or 1.4.
That's my question, is that I just want to have that, because
Do we have some money to spend?
Yeah, so take the money component out of it. I want to know what your priority. Don't worry about the money side. I was just giving you an idea of what the costs were, but don't forget the money. I'll look after the money. You just tell me what's the priority. Yeah, so three dogs.
top 3, okay.
Are we gonna make the sandy dump and the water fill station one? Or is that?
No,
No?
no, they're each different. You can do the cement work without putting the water fill in.
Could, yeah, but then people would go to the camp.
Geez, I could use 2 of them, 3, 55 priorities.
So just recap the process.
You get to dab 3 times on your top 3 priorities.
So I could dot 3 times on one?
You certainly could if you want to override that. Is that what you meant? Sure, if you want to use all 3 on one project, go ahead.
And how many dots creates a priority?
Holy man. I think we're gonna see that. It's gonna be which sheet has the most, it's gonna be the sheets that have the most Dobbs on them, which will be the top 3. No.
Not that hard, Jim, you
No.
just flash it, trust me. It's so hard when you're daubing 1.4 mil against 25,000. Like, it just seems. Three gone there, Reberger.
What's that?
I said all 3 years were gone on one spot.
Well, I gotta spread them out more.
You gotta run. I hope that doesn't go through on the wall.
Yeah. Go ahead, I'm still thinking.
That's 6. How many are you gonna do?
Yeah. There's a dementia-friendly,
Are you done?
No, I'm still. That's 2. That's what you told me. That's what you told me.
I just made a dot. Yeah, sure. I'm cheap. I went cheap.
Are they now? No, I'll keep
We left people still with the drinking water.
Is that everybody?
21 dots. Let's have an audit.
So ball diamonds, we didn't even talk about that one, so, okay, so ball diamonds, Sandy dump, and horn. Okay. That's all I needed going forward for next week. Thank you.
So Red Deer County's close to, yeah, 42.4 per 100,000. Macomb County just went purple today.
Oh,
What's our cases today, Todd? For Alberta? Updated, still calling.
So I know, well, I guess I can wait for around the table.
yeah, okay, I guess we've had enough capital discussion for now. Want to quickly go around the table? Councillor Hill?
I'd actually like to hear what Councillor Harrison has to say today, actually.
Really?
Can I pass the baton? No, that's okay. I can go, Don, sorry. I don't have too terribly much to add. I'm definitely excited to hear where we're gonna end up with the priorities for budgetary reasons. And yeah, it's a push-pull with what we want to see, what we need, and needs and wants get blurred pretty quickly. So, yeah, and I also, yeah, I just want if deemed necessary for any emergency meetings for our outbreak or anything that comes out with our community with the virus, if that's deemed necessary, would love to make myself available for that, because it's quite scary how fast things have turned, and that's about all for me.
I'll just mention, I guess, things that I'm doing this week, lots of them. MPC tomorrow, Wednesday, if I've written all this stuff down properly, the Kenny Town Hall and community crime discussions. Thursday, I do have the RDR Mug exec and general Zooms. And Friday, the MC, didn't write the letters down right, pool optimization. And then one to keep in mind, I just heard it here the other day for the arena, for funding, I think for operation funding, if we are lucky enough to keep things going, I think there's going to be a strong desire to keep it running longer than normal, because teams that have played like 10 games, 15 games last year at this time have played 2, and now they're shut down, some of them. And I think their league is already projecting that they would play through March, and that would be totally different than anything we've seen here for years. So just throwing that out there.
I've got MPC tomorrow, library meeting tomorrow. Wednesday's the telephone town hall, and the crime discussion, that was Wednesday night too, wasn't it?
That's right.
And then on Friday, the pool deal.
Yeah, same as Councillor Carrot, except for no library meeting.
Last week I took part in a quite a bit different Remembrance Day ceremony than what we've done in the past, and being as it's 2020, my job is to lower the flag, and the flag was stuck, so just stood there and pulled on nothing happened. So. Have community services panel tomorrow, plus the other ones you've talked about, and then just a question for Councillor Bates, because he's everything trains. The train was stopped on the crossing here last night with our 2 RCMP and a CP rail truck. I assume you know what's going on. You seem to know everything CP rail, so I was just curious.
No, I'm very curious, CP rail, but I have no knowledge.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. And I have CAPE on Wednesday. They're having their annual general meeting. And again, I thank you for your support for one of the vacant director's positions. I'd like to thank Stuart and Ken. They helped me out today. I wrote the script for my video, but I didn't know how to get it so that the two meshed, but Ken's done a fantastic job, so please pass that along to him. I was out on Friday and also this morning, 2 hours each day with the exec director from the chamber handing out the hometown Christmas sort of sponsorship letters. And there seems to be some uptake. I wouldn't say it's, you know, really grand, but it's out there. They've changed a number of their events upcoming. And one of the things that I did hear from one of the business owners is there's a number of things or initiatives that are going on, different fundraisers, different groups doing things for Christmas, and she was saying that it's hard for her unless she knows what websites they're on. So I said I'd bring it back. Maybe there's a way that we could have like a central clearinghouse, and maybe it is the chamber. I don't know. I throw that out there, but you know, the seniors have an event. We got the fundraiser with the barber shop and that group, and she wants to participate in donorships and sponsorships, but she doesn't know how to get everything that sort of lined up. So maybe just something to think about, Stuart, if there's a way that we could gather that. So I think that's I have the same meetings as everyone else around the table. So yeah, that's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you. Well, yes, I did take in the services on Wednesday. It was certainly different, compact, but went very well, I thought. I'm looking forward to that. That's still on, I think, that telephone town hall at 4. Is it? Yep. Okay, and then at 6 o'clock at the Learning Center, right? Okay. I'm sure you've discussed this or maybe started to think about it, Mr. CAO, but I'm of the assumption that we will be limited as to what we can do with the staff for a Christmas party this year. And if you can't do anything like obviously the typical Christmas party, I just encourage you to somehow find something that we can do for the staff and get, you know, however, and I'm sure you guys have been thinking about it, but really want to see you try and do something, because it's been a pretty testy year for everybody. You've got, I don't know, take them out camping in the mountains or something. But anyways.
I'm not going anywhere near cliffs with myself.
I can show you some musking area that you want to stay away from. Anyways, that's it for our round table. I guess there's only one thing left.
We don't get to hear from the gallery?
Oh, the gallery.
Yeah.
Dan, you haven't said Okay. Stephen, Heather, no, you've had your say. Okay, Stuart? No? Megan, no? Okay.
Okay, I move we adjourn then.
Thank you, Councillor Reber. All in favor?
Just want counsel for like 30 seconds.
Sure.